We are live. Excellent. So I'll give it a moment to see who fills in, and then I'll give you an overview of days 1 and 2 of SHOT Show. First of all, I would like to address an accusation that I missed yesterday's live stream because I had too many single malt scotches. And was basically too hammered to make it back to my hotel room on time. That accusation is completely unfounded. I was drinking old fashions. So just so that you know. As is usually the case, if you guys can hear me well, please put something in the chat box. This is going live to Rumble, Locals, YouTube, and X. The live streaming to Facebook, the Facebook pages has not yet been properly resolved. So I'm not live streaming there, but I expect to add that to the distribution channel in the future as I go along. I am going to go and check if I can see the stream just to be sure. And it appears that I can. And on Rumble, at least I hear sound. Okay, very good. So that works. Alrighty. All right, I know it's late on the East Coast. It's just after midnight on the East Coast. It's 9:15 Pacific time. So I'll try to go over it comparatively quickly, work off of the best of my recollection. If you think of a brand that I'm not covering or that you're particularly interested about, please ask. Maybe it will jog my memory. 2 days of SHOT Show is a lot of information, and I might not remember it all. I have some pictures on my phone, and Mr. Drew Morgan is here. Good to see you here. Well, good to know you're here. You know, you can see me, I can see you. I am gonna take the pictures I have from yesterday, and I have a few brochures here to jog my memory. And let's talk. All right, what brand should I start with? You guys can choose. Rammers and Twangers, you're back here. Good morning from UK. Good evening from Las Vegas. What brand do you want to know about the most? Where do I start? Anyone? Anyone at all? So let's see. I'm going to try to pull up a picture to show you. Probably the first useful thing is to look at a few pictures. And we'll go from there. Mildly curious if Black Rain has the bullpup they were showing last year. So I stopped by Black Rain. I didn't talk to anyone, just kind of looked around. I did not see any bullpups there. And Anthony Pietkovsky, the guy who I talked to, I also didn't see him as well. Rosalinda Tikal wants to know about March. Okay. We can talk about March. I did visit March comparatively early in the morning. March, in terms of new things, there are a couple of things that are interesting. So I'm generally up to speed on what's happening to March. That's one of the company that talks to me. Element Optics. So Element was today. I spent a lot of time at Element because I do some consulting for them and I did some radicals for them and all that. I also recorded a small video. I generally don't do a lot of videos at SHOT Show, but I did record a small video at Element with Matt. I'm going to edit it and post it up hopefully tomorrow. But I'll give you an overview of what I saw there as well. Okay. All right. So let's start with March then. So the new thing, it's not new for the SHOT Show. Historic Ham goes, we don't know what you looked at. That is a good point, but keep on throwing out brands that you care about. If they're here, we'll look at them at some point. I do have a lot of appointments tomorrow, but I've looked at quite a few. But anyhow, so with March, on the left is grayish scope, is March's Magesta. It adds 8 to 80 by 56. Not a great, the indoors is not a great place to. Is not a great place to look at high magnification optics, but from what was able to see, yeah, that's the latest and greatest interpretation of their target scope, the second focal plane version of the high master system. I'm pretty sure it's kicking ass in F-class, and that's really who it was made for. I was mildly curious, but it's not necessarily my thing, but just looking at it, yeah, it's pretty impressive scope optically. Notice that it has March's Shuriken turrets. One of the things they're doing very nicely, they're trying to take these turrets and proliferate them across their product line as much as they can. And I like that. These are really excellent turrets, some of the best in the market. And a little bit of a commonality of the product line wouldn't hurt March at all. They have this little handout in terms of what is new. There are a couple of iterations of the original 5 to 42 by 56 design. So the Gen 2 version of that is out. That's the scope you see here. So the Gen 2 version of it is out. It's fairly similar to the original, but basically what they did, they reworked a little bit the objective design so that the optical performance as you dial through the elevation range a little bit improves, right? That's subjectively looking at it, generally edge performance improved. So I think they did more than just mild objective redesign, and the performance at the edges of the adjustment range improved. On axis, it looks comparatively similar to the original 5 to 42 March, which I do have and use. It's a scope I happen to like a fair bit. What I did find very interesting was one of the concept models of this new March, and I'm going to blow it up a little bit. And what they did here, so they had it with the FMLTR1 reticle that I designed for them. It is a version of the March scope that has integrated mounts. This is a little bit angular. It's just playing around with this. If they do it, the final version is going to be a little bit smoother. But I like it very, very much because it alleviates most of the potential stress on the scope tube and all that. The mount is removable. You can add a spacer if you want, so that you can add some inclination or height and things like that. And they're kind of looking for feedback to see if a rifle scope like that with an integrated mount is a good idea. I think it's a good idea. I like it. Hopefully they will do it. No, that's not something I have a ton of influence on. But I gave them my feedback, and I think it's a very good idea. The traditional scope mounting system is prone to rotation, poor alignment, over-tightened rings, a variety of other issues. And if you do an integrated mount like that, you don't have to worry about any of that. So it's kind of an interesting idea that I happen to like. Okay. Mr. Cazador, were you able to look at Steiner's H6 XI STR mill reticle? Yes, I was. Although I looked at it in a 2 to 12, which I liked quite a lot. I do not think they gave me a good picture. There's a little picture in the brochure, but it is a very respectable reticle. I liked it quite a lot overall. Okay. So I'll get to Steiner momentarily. I am just basically wrapping up with March at the moment. Drew Morgan integrated mount seems brilliant. Yeah, so in principle, integrated mount somewhat limits the mounting flexibility of the scope, but given the types of rifles this goes on, I think it's a good idea. What I suggested to them to do, so the current integrated mount I have is 0 MOA. I suggested that they should do this integrated mount inherently with a 20 MOA slope, then adds another 20 MOA spacer. And what that would do is if you can add a 20 MOA spacer to add to 40 MOA or to subtract because the spacer is reversible to 0. And that would give them, spacers are cheap and comparatively easy to machine. That would give them a reasonable way to dial in slope without stressing the scope tube or anything inside. I think it's a good idea. I'm going to encourage them to do it, but once again, in the grand scheme of things, it is entirely up to them. Maybe I should run a poll on my website and see if you guys think this is a good idea. I like it. So let's see. So I'll talk about Element Steiner in a moment. As I was rushing over on Tuesday morning, the first booth I saw that was not planned for, and I just kind of made a very quick detour to see if they have anything new, assuming they probably don't. And boy, was I wrong. So I went and visited Meprolite. Let's see if you can see it. Yes, you can. Amazon doing aesthetically, it looks so much nicer. Yeah, I agree with you. I think this whole integrated mount business is a good idea when it is done well. And keep in mind that the way they did it for now is a little bit angular. It can be done better and lighter and all that sort of stuff. I think it's a very good idea. Okay, where was I? Yeah, Meprolite. So the way Meprolite works is there's always, Immaculate is an Israeli company. I happen to generally like their products. They are more pro red dot with 2 integrated lasers, is what sits on my home defense gun. Excuse me. But a lot of their stuff I have been mixed on. They have good iron sights. They have some interesting red dots, some clever ideas about the augmented reality red dots. Stuff like that, but nothing that ever really attracted too much attention from me in terms of the mainstream products standpoint. Well, they are jumping into this in a big way. So the red dot sight you see on this Glock is Meprolite's enclosed red dot sights. Red dot sight. This is for normal full size with slides, and it's not Chinese. They do these in Taiwan and in the Philippines. And then I started looking a little bit deeper and found a guy there that I know. He runs the US office. Turns out they have 2 models of this enclosed red dot sights for pistols. One for full-size Glock and one a little bit narrow, still enclosed for a narrow sled Glock. Okay, must be expensive. And then I go ask them about the price, and it's not made in China. It's going to be in the $350, $360 range. I don't remember the exact pricing, but in that under 400, that general ballpark. So, okay, I think that's pretty cool. And then what else do you have? And then for less money, in the $200 range, they have a couple of different widths of open red dot sights. I think the small one is RMS footprint and the large one is RMR or something like that. Okay, that's pretty interesting. And then they decided that the old venerable M21 fiber optic illuminated website could use an upgrade. So what you see here on the left is what they call the M25. It's again fully passively illuminated. There is a more efficient fiber optic collector. I'm generally somewhat pessimistic about technologies like this, but this one looked pretty freaking respectable. And again, it doesn't require batteries or anything else, ambient light only. The weakness of sites like this, traditionally has been that when you're in a dark environment looking out into a bright light, the reticle is not bright enough. This one looked better calibrated than the original M21. Whether it's going to be viable in harsh conditions like that is hard to say, but it looks to be an improvement. Probably is worth looking at. And then it turns out I decided to make a somewhat unusual magnifier. This is a 3x magnifier. And I asked him, okay, that has to be made in China. No, it's not made in China. So I don't know where they make it. It's not made in China. And when I look at it, it is a really nice magnifier with very little border around the image. Optically looked very nice and quite compact. Comes with a mount that has different kind of spacers available, so you can mount it at different heights, flip to the left or flip to the right. Nice compact magnifier, again in the $350, $300 range. and not made in China. So very unexpected, all of a sudden, Maprolite is coming in with fairly compelling products and a compelling story. I thought that was very noteworthy. Joe Morgan, I wonder how they are for night vision. I assume that's the fiber illuminated. Mr. Blesterman, good evening, Ilya. Good evening to you too, sir. Link, how is the glass tint on the passive one? Yeah, so passive ones always have glass tint. There is a greenish tint. I think it's less invasive than on the older M21 and on Trigicons, but it is quite prominent. How they work with night vision? Generally, not too badly. But I know if I decide to review one, I do have a night vision monocular that's mountable in the gun, and I'll be able to test that. We'll see how that works. Don't know. Like, it's not something I can easily test at SHOT Show. Is the region map like M21 or M22? I think no. The new one is M22, not M25. M22. I'm sorry, and the original one was M21. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Okay. All right, moving right along. So now we get to March. I saw Maprolite on the way to March. Visited them. We talked about March. Next to March was Meopta. Meopta Meostar R is the new product line. So they discontinued the original Meostar that they called R1 for a little while. Meostar R2 still exists. Now there's a new Meostar R, 4024 by 56 and 2.5 to 15 by 50. On the Oculus, it says made in Czech Republic. So there's a 6X reactor. Visually, there is some similarity with some scopes that I've seen coming from Europe that use the erector. Maybe the objective from Light Optics works and some other stuff that's from Europe. I don't know if that's the situation here, but both scopes looked pretty decent, and they are in that original, excuse me, Meostar R1 price range, which is pretty respectable. The third scope in that line is a 1 to 6 by 24. With again number 4 reticle. I looked at it again optically. It looked quite nice, but it's a conventional illumination. It's not on fiber illuminated. So this for the 1 to 6 of this type, that's going to be that's kind of going to be a very, very uphill battle. I guess I'll say that. Okay. I'll do night vision for pistol dots. They have both manual and automatic adjustment. I think their lower settings work with night vision. But again, whether it's well calibrated, I can't tell. I can't easily tell at SHOT Show floor. I'll try to get my hands on them and see if they work properly. Okay, I have to turn off my sound and video for just a moment because I need to blow my nose, and I don't think any of you are itching to hear that. Give me 1 sec. All right, I'm back. Okay, it should work. So Meopta was interesting. Meopta was purchased by Carlyle, but not the entirety. The Florida facilities still owned by the original owners. They are continuing with the Meopta Sporting Optics products. There were some people from Czech Republic there. They're making things in Czech. The Optica 6, Optica 5 scopes still there. we'll see what happens. It's unclear to me how it's going to go further out, but still they're making new stuff, so not a bad thing. Also near there afterwards was Night Force. Night Force, on the new product they had was this new spotting scope with a nice design. Looks like a Standard Light Optics Works spotting scope, 6 to 36 magnification range, by 50. Okay. There's a cage. If you're mounting options, a couple of reticle options, it's not very heavy. I don't know. I mean, I couldn't figure out why they did this. It's image code didn't look at great. Couple of people I know who looked at it didn't think it was impressive. The image was kind of flat, and it's very expensive. It's like $2,900. I don't know. It's Night Force. I'm sure they'll convince people to buy it. I don't get it. I went looked around a little bit. The usual stuff. My opinion hasn't changed. I like the attacker scope. I don't like the NX8. I think SHV is kind of obsolete, just running on Night Force name. I don't know. A Night Force is a mystifying company to me. Okay, a couple of questions that I need to answer. Mr. Rammers and Twangers, if you could only have one scope, what would be your preferred magnification range? Something in the 3 to 15 power range. I have a March that goes from 1.5 to 15 dual focal plane. That's a very, very good, do a little bit of everything scope. I don't need a huge amount of magnification. Going up to 15 takes care of most things I need for me. And going down to about 2, 2.5, sometimes 3 is enough to work with clip-on slides, something like that. If the scope has good field of view, a 3 to 15 is similar. It works very well. 1.5 to 15, obviously, is better if nothing's been screwed up. Link Mustar, basically hunting only, right? Any scope can be used for anything in a pinch, but they're definitely aimed at the hunting market. Rick Hamby, very pricey. I assume you're referring to the Night Force. Yes. This Night Force Sporter is a truly mystifying product to me. After I went to talk to Night Force, I went to chat with the guys at Shield Sites. So they have a large variety of different sites. That I generally like Shield quite a bit. They're made in UK. They're nice products. The one I've been really waiting for has been the AMS, but they had AMS and AMS-C, which was a little bit surprising. Both are small RMS footprint sites, but they're both enclosed. They are probably the smallest, most compact and closed sites on the market. They finally got the manufacturing and everything going. Not so straightforward. The regular AMS, probably at its best on normal Glock or similar slides, works very nicely there. You can switch some reticles. You can manually adjust illumination, or you can let it adjust automatically. So it basically has a lot of the functionality of the original SAS, except in a much, much smaller package. And the battery compartment is on the side of this side, so you don't have to lift it off to change anything. That's the thing you see on the right. AMS-C is a narrow version. It fits on narrow slides like the Glock 43, the type of stuff that I carry. Auto adjust only. Shield's auto adjust works very well. So for carry, I do prefer the auto adjust. For carry on handguns, I do prefer the auto adjust red dot sights. If it's done well, Shield is done well. They tweaked the curves so that even with looking from dark room to bright room, etc., you will still see it in the way they position the light sensor is very, very intelligent. it's pointing in the same direction as where the gun is pointing, so you're not just sampling the light levels right next to you. In other words, it's done nicely. They have a large variety of they have the large variety of the different open red dot sites as well. All the different versions of they have larger window versions of RMS, narrow ones, glass and plastic windows and all that. But the ones that I was looking at most carefully were the AMS sites, and I will probably do an article on one. I just need to decide whether I should do one on the full size AMS or the compact one that fits on narrow slide guns. Moving right along, I stopped by Collis, which was interesting. There have been some questions about these, so I did look at it carefully. Generally speaking, when I show up in the Collis booth, the first reaction is to seek the dogs on me. But in this case, I got locked out. There's a gentleman who works at Collis, his name is Peter. I've known him for many, many years. He's generally in Austria, so I don't see him too much. But he was there, and he is a nice man and a very friendly guy. I've known him, like I said, for many years. So we had a nice conversation. He gave me a good background on the scope. Discussed a few other things here and there. The K3 to 28 is a 3.5 to 28 by 50 rifle scope. And notice how, let's say, do I have a better picture? No, that's already something else. And notice how enormous the eyepiece is. Let me see if I can give you a better picture. Okay, this is the eyepiece on the 5 to 25, and this is the eyepiece on the 3.5 to 28. This silly thing is freaking huge. Mr. Wolford is here. Good to see you, sir. What have I missed? Well, my whole story about the meaning of life and how to achieve complete and perfect contentment, happiness, things like that. So, since you missed that, you'll just have to listen to me talk about rifle scopes and things like that. All right, where was I? Collis, yeah. And notice how enormous this eyepiece is. So they spent, according to Peter, nothing important exactly. Just you'll listen to it later. I talked about Myopta, March, Maprolite, Night Force, I think, yeah, and Shield. Colors. So he said they spent close to 4 years on this eyepiece, and I believe that this is a very complicated design. The apparent field of view, I think, is a 29-degree range, so it's very wide. Eye relief is about the same. Eye box is very good. This is a very, very forgiving scope to get behind. I spent a lot of time looking through it. There are two different versions. The regular one, that's the one you're looking at, and the DLR version. DLR version basically has 10 milliradian per turn clicks. So the DLR turret is much, much better. If you are planning to buy a Collis, one of these, I would get the DLR version. It's not a cheap scope. It's going to be in the $4,300 range. Otherwise, mechanically, it's just like all the normal Collis scopes are. The tube is 36 millimeters. The objective, for some inexplicable reason, is 50 millimeters. I'm not entirely sure why. It's already a pretty beefy scope. They probably should have gone with the 56, but whatever. It's their scope. The eyepiece is extremely impressive. They also have a version of a low power variable, the second generation, or third, or whatever it is, of their K18, the 1 to 8 second focal plane scope with the same basic eyepiece. Very similar. So it's very impressive. We did a very good job. Now, a 1 to 8 second focal plane LPVO is not my thing. But this 3.5 to 28, it's a true 8 power erector, and it looked to be pretty nice optimized. I was quite impressed with this. I think the way they did this eyepiece speaks well of them. Right now, my general take on Collis Swarovski as a company has not really changed. But that's that. I very briefly looked at the AI binocular. It looked nice, but I don't give a rat's ass about identifying birds in mid-flight or whatever they do. So I didn't spend much time there. I did look very, very carefully at the scope, and the eyepiece design is impressive. Let's see. After that, I looked at a couple of things and then headed over to Lupold to look at the Mark IV. I had a meeting with John Snodgrass. He's kind of a product manager for Lupold. John stood me up and vanished somewhere, so I will make it a point to give him a massive guilt trip. And next time I see him, I'll try to stop by tomorrow if I have time, but I kind of have a tight schedule. Mark IV. The Lupold did the reticle options a little bit, as Lupold always does. They did some funky things over there. They had a ton of scopes over there. The only scope I saw was illuminated was the 1 to 4.5 power on the other side of this rack. It's odd, but okay. All the other ones were not illuminated. Looking at the specs a little bit, etc. There's some other weird things like Lupold has this feature where there's a scope level. For some unknown reason, the scope level is only integrated into 4.5 to 18, not into 6 to 24, 8 to 32 scopes. That's odd. Reticle selection, as I discussed, is kind of weird. That's a Lupold special. But the scopes themselves, I liked quite a lot. I think they did well with them. For the low power variable, there are kind of two variants, one with exposed turrets, I assume for service rifle competitions, and one with covered turrets. And illuminated reticle for general purpose use. I think for general purpose use for this 1 to 4.5 by 24 LPVO, that's going to be a tough battle. There are many good options out there. Although, it's a nice scope, there's no question about it. But the other ones I suspect will do quite well. So optical quality looked very, very nice, especially for the money. The biggest weakness is that the field of view is narrow and that the reticles have been Lupolded. But beyond that, I think these are very capable scopes. The proliferation of these zero-lock turrets is a good thing. They've done very well in Mark V scopes, and I expect them to do well in this one. I think, given the price point, it's in a $1,100 to $1,300-$1,400 range with this level of image quality and stuff. Barring something unforeseen, I expect this to do extremely well. For Lupold, these are nice scopes, and they look to be well optimized. Mr. 19 Clutch 69 says Lupold 3 to 18. There was no 3 to 18 there. There was a 4.5 to 18. Which 3 to 18 do you mean? They had a Mark VI 3 to 18 a while back. They still occasionally do it for military customers. But it's not exactly a shining example of Lupold quality. It's not their best design ever. Okay, guys, give me another second. I'll be right back with you, Mr. 19 Clutch 69. If you can elaborate what exactly you mean, I would appreciate it. All right, I'm back. Lupold service rifle scope should have the parallax set at 300 yards. Ask him if that is what it's set at. Yeah, I'll ask him if I go there again. Rick Hamby, or adjustable parallax. It does not have adjustable parallax. The service rifle scope is actually the one you see in this picture. Let me zoom in on it. It's this guy. Notice this one has exposed, although locking elevation windage turret. It does not have a illumination turret on the left. The illuminated one was on the opposite side of this rack. Okay. All right, let's see what else I have. I went and stopped by Trigicon, didn't see anything particularly new. I did look at the new RCR red dot site, actually looked pretty nice. I'm not convinced I want to pay Trigicon prices, especially given what I just said about Maprolite and all that, but yeah, it is by all accounts, a pretty nice red dot site. I stopped by the guys at XS Sites, super friendly guys, and some of the really, truly excellent iron sights. They had the John Wick lever gun over there, which looked really, really cool with a full length rail. Beyond that, XS Sites didn't have too much new stuff, although more than this. Interesting. I thought I took some pictures. They had some new sights for different revolvers from Colton Smith and Wesson. So they have the simpler sights with the tritium and otherwise bright looking front dot and just black and serrated rear sights. Otherwise, nothing really new with XS sights, just the same excellent quality irons. After that, I went and spent some quality time in the Burs and Steiner booth. A bunch of people there I've known for a long time, and I've known generally quite well. Lots of things there that I really liked, and I think you guys will as well. What's in this picture, I thought was, well, some of it was a little bit mystifying. Should I have a better picture? No, I do not. Okay. See if I can zoom in so that you can see better. The name is blurry, but I think I have the handout. Yeah, I have the handout so that I don't have to read the label. So what you see on top of the screen, this thing, you should be able to see my mouse, is the new red dot sight, kind of like T1XI, aimed to compete against things like 6 Romeo 4, Aimpoint Micro, all that sort of stuff. Switchable reticle. There's a button on the left there that you don't see. If you press and hold, it switches from a simple dot to an open circle to a circle dot setup, and the rotary dial up top. This thing changes the brightness. Its map is fairly expensive. It's like $700-ish. I think $699 map, something like that, which frankly I think is excessive for a red dot site. I don't know what they're thinking. But then again, so behind it is the new magnifier. That's a 3-power magnifier. The map on it, I think, is like $900. And I don't know. I think that's crazy. I don't think they're going to get it. I don't think it's going to work. Okay. Also, I think I've mentioned that Steiner has another field scope, 7-40 by 60 field scope, and the map price is also like $2,800, something like that. So I don't know. I don't think that's going to sell. I think they're deluding themselves, but you know what? Their products, they can do what they want, and there's such a cognitive dissonance. There's a bunch of other things there that's actually pretty reasonably priced given the competition. But this red dot and the magnifier, I don't know what they think. I don't know. Maybe some law enforcement agencies will buy it at that price, but that's weird. Nitrogen clutch, the new reticle PTR2. I have no idea what PTR2 reticle is. The new reticle in a foreign, maybe you're talking about Lupold 3.6 to 18 with a PR2 reticle. Is that what you mean? If that's what you mean, yes, they do have one, but still not illuminated. Since Mark V was introduced, we've been begging them to put in the illuminated PR2 reticle in there. Everybody has been begging them, and no luck. So I don't know what they're thinking. Once again, the whole reticle situation, they've just find a way to do something weird, and I don't understand why. Drew Morgan, ouch, the SIG 4T Pro can be had for $450, I know. Wolford, so where would you put new Trigicon red dots relative to SIG acro sites. Is it actually an improvement over MR? I'm not as up to speed on current SIG sites, if they have something like an acro or not. I think they do, but I don't think I've seen it. SIG is not a shot. Acro is a very well made site and grossly overpriced. Look, I'll be honest with you, right? If they want for a site like this, if they want, $700, $600, what is it? $700, or Acro or Aimpoint wants $700-800 for theirs. I'm not paying it. Red dot sites are pretty simple sites. I think that pricing for something so simple is a complete insanity. Some red dot sites become a little bit harder to make if you try to miniaturize something with like Shield AMS, which is actually hard to make because of how small it is. It'll cost you some money. I think the AMS is like 600, the MSC is 550. And they're made in the UK, so I kind of get it. Is whether Trigon are charging improvement over the RMR? Yeah, it looks, collimation quality looks to be a little bit better. And it is enclosed, which is an advantage. Do I think it's worth the money? No. I mean, I think they're nuts. Especially given that Meprolet just introduced a couple of those enclosed red dot sites from Taiwan, Philippines for under $400. I'll do that over any of this stuff any day. These Shields, AMS, MSC, maybe because of how small they are and how involved in the way they did this, it's a little bit different. But beyond that, I don't know. Like this Steiner for $700, I think is nuts. $900 3x magnifier is equally nuts. What Trigon wants for the RCR is crazy. I'm not doing it. But for as long as people keep on buying it just to get the Trigon or Aimpoint name, they'll persist with this. So I don't know. I'm not going to feed into the insanity. Okay. Mr. Peter James from Australia is here. Welcome to the live stream, sir. All right. At Steiner, so I looked again and drilled a little bit. I have this 8x30 LRF or the 1535 nanometer laser, and now it has a Bluetooth dongle, so it talks to everything. The bloody thing is expensive, and if I do an LRF like that, I would want a little bit more magnification, larger objective. But the laser rangefinder on this thing is amazing, and now it integrates with IFS and all sorts of other applied ballistics stuff. Really nice things. There are a couple other things I saw at Steiner that I can't show you, but once they release them, I will. I was impressed. I liked what they're doing. One of the new things they introduced the entire line of new thermals. And with it, they introduced a shortened version of a Predator 4 scope. So there are two scopes over there on top. Here, see, that's a Predator 8. That's the high-end hunting scope. Very nice scope. On the bottom is Predator 4S. That's a 4-16 by 44. I think, was it 42? 44, 4-16 by 44 scope. With the new thermal clip-on, the new C35, which is 640 by 480, with a 35mm lens. So the new shortened 4-16 with the clip-on is marginally barely longer than the Predator 8, which is very cool. Wolford, I scored in close SIG and Acro for $500 each. MSRP is definitely crazy. Okay, 500 I think is also too much money for them, but it's definitely much better than 800. But you do pay for the name, so there's that. As I said, unless there's something special is doing for just a simple red dot like SIG and Aimpoint do, that amount of money for it is just highway robbery. The new colors, Peter 328, did you check it out? Yes, I did. That's in the beginning of the video where you talked about colors. Short story, the eyepiece is very impressive. The scope looked pretty good. I don't understand why they went with the 50mm objective versus 56, but it's definitely a big improvement and a big step forward for colors products. And in terms of the field of view for precision scopes, it's unlike anything else that's out there. Basically, to give you an idea, with the more conventional long-range precision scope, the field of view you get on about 16 power. With this new colors, you'll get a similar field of view on about 21 power or thereabouts. It is a big difference, and it might be an improvement. The fundamental problem is the 50mm objective is a little bit smaller than you'd want on this. So James, sorry, joint lady. Yeah, no worries. Like I said, I know. Unfortunately, I do these live streams during shot when I get back to the hotel, so it's not like I can schedule it and you know when it's going to start. So yeah, if you have a few minutes, just when we're done, rewatch from earlier on, and you'll be reasonably up to speed. Okay. Where was I? Compared to SMB PM2 3 to 27, I honestly don't know. I don't like the Schmidt and Bender 3 to 27. I don't think it's particularly good scope. It was built to a spec, and I think they pushed for too much, and I was always unimpressed with it. But the fundamental problem with the 3.5 to 28 colors is that I only saw it inside the shot show. Excuse me, give me 1 second. Oh, bloody. Right, I'm back. So I only saw the colors inside shot show. So it looked well optimized, easy to get behind, looked like a very nice scope. Is it better than the Schmidt 27? I don't know. I can't tell you. Maybe, possibly, probably, not necessarily, unless I actually look at them. So I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And for games like PRS, where you need to be able to find targets and all that, being able to look for them, have the same field of view on high magnification and competing designs should be a big advantage. So, make what you will out of it. So this is kind of the front view of this new Clipon that Steiner made. It runs off of bloody hell, 2 batteries. My voice is slowly abandoning me. It runs off of these 2. I have a cough drop now that I just remembered. Grab them, one of those, maybe it will help. A few days of shot show and you can't talk anymore. Okay, so the new colors Steiner Clip-On. Notice there are 2 battery compartments here. For 18650 batteries, runs for what's about 7-8 hours, something like that. The important part is that it can run on 1 battery for a bit, so it's basically hot swappable, right? So if you want to swap the battery, one of the batteries, it can run another one, which is pretty cool. There is focus and a few other functions. It's nicely streamlined. It's not real big. It's a 640 by 480 core 35mm lens, and map for it is $3,000, which is probably the cheapest high quality clip-on I can think of. The downside is that the way the mounting works for the time being is that you can only clip it onto the objective. You cannot mount it separately with Picatinny mount on top of the like AR-15 handguard, something like that. All the Steiner guys, Steiner Burs guys I was talking in the booth were unhappy about it. It was designed in Europe. In Europe, there are no AR-15s. Nobody mounts these things in the Picatinny rail. And they packaged it up, so it's not so straightforward to mount in the Picatinny rail. I can think of a couple different ways of doing this, so maybe we'll help them come up with a proper Picatinny mount. But it's not so simple because of how the battery compartment works. and all that. But, clamping on the rifle scope objective does work. I prefer to mount the clip-on separately, but for 3 grand, for this level of imaging performance, etc., it's not bad at all. I mean, I kind of like it. And with the new 4-16, it does make for a pretty good combination. I did look at the 4-16S, the S standing for short, the Predator 4S scope separately, quite carefully, and I was very pleasantly surprised by how well it performs. It is a nice scope. I think the map on the Predator 4S, it's a second focal plane design, is $10.99, so around $1,100, which is not bad given that it seems to be a very well corrected scope. Wolford, can we assume a dual focal plane 1-8 PLXC from primary arms is coming given the new SFP in the same scope? So I haven't talked to primary arms yet. That's tomorrow. I would not assume that at all. Dual focal plane scopes are hard to make in quantities. Most modern designs by respectable companies are designed so that you can use them with FFP or SFP reticles. Excuse me, by putting both of them in the same scope is tough. I'm not convinced that Light Optics Works can pull it off in quantities, so it's hard to say. Phil Tellerico, was Delta Strike at the SHOT Show, so anything new? No, Delta was not at SHOT Show, at least I didn't see them. All right, going back to Steiner for a moment. So the whole new line of thermal scopes is out. There is a S35 regular, scopes with normal Picatinny mount. That's about MSRP about 4K. The clip-on MSRP is 3K. As I said, that's something that I found very interesting. There are two different handheld binoculars, H35 and H35 Lite. H35 has a 640 by 480 core. H35 Lite has a smaller 400 by 300 core. But the Lite map price is $1,500, and the regular H35, the map price is about $2,800. Somewhat unexpectedly, Steiner's thermal pricing is looking very appealing, and I'm quite impressed with what they are doing with this clip-on. $3,000 for a clip-on like this is a very good deal. Mounting does need to be figured out. So let's see if there are any questions, and we'll see. So no questions. Moving right along, we'll get to H6 XI scope, which was one of the more exciting things for me, at least. Excuse me, a chat show. I quickly look something up to make sure I'm not bullshitting. Bloody hell. And let's see. Yeah. So H6 XI is supposedly the hunting version of the T6 XI. The tube's a little bit smaller. It's a 30mm tube scope, 2-12 magnification. This scope is quite compact. 42mm objective, exposed elevation turret, covered windage, sight focus, and illumination. Up until now, excuse me, these scopes were MOA only and hunting style reticles. Introducing at this SHOT Show, they have in addition to the MOA reticle, MOA turret, they have a milliradian turret and milliradian reticle. The reticle is called the STR mill. I didn't want to take pictures through the scope. I want to review this one anyway. I don't know if you guys can see it well. This is STR mill. It's basically a properly illuminated modern tree reticle. A little bit more dots that I generally like, but not too many. I think it's a nice reticle. sized about right for the magnification range. So if you wanted a true general purpose MPVO, medium power variable scope, this is probably the purest expression of this concept that excuse me, that I have seen to date. This particular Steiner, the map is, I think, $1,900. Which, given what it is in the performance, is not a bad thing. I think that's very. I think it's quite impressive. I like it. They did well. Yeah, I mean, Steiner Burs had a lot of good stuff this year. So, you guys want an MPVO? Well, here you go. And I will say this, right? So every once in a while, somebody tries to make a good mid-power variable scope because we're all begging for it, and then nobody buys it. So if you've been asking for an MPVO, well, here you go. I suggest you jump on it and prove to Steiner that this was worth developing. Excellent scope. I really liked it. I mean, you can do a lot with a scope like that. I think this reticle is also available in 3-18 by 50 H6 XI. And I don't remember if it was in the 5-30 by 50 or not. The 3-18 version is map is $19.99. 5-30 version, the map is $21.99. I thought all three were compelling designs. All right, all the other stuff I saw at Steiner were the prototypes. So I didn't take pictures and I can't talk about those anyway. But there are interesting things coming. Burs also has a newly revamped line of thermals. This is the Burs Clipon. This one has two Serra 123 batteries, transversely mounted. Seems to work well. I like the Clipon as well. A little bit less expensive than the Steiner, which is nice. Burs has the Fast Fire C red dot, RMS footprint red dot. Open style one, cup $210, something like that. So that's $229, sorry. I apologize for the coughing. One things I liked about it is that it's a 6 MOA dot. I like larger dots, and I'm happy to see that somebody's paying attention. So the Burs Clipon is about $2,500. It's not a bad price at all. And the the conventional scope that they make is $2,500 as well. I think they now, Burs used to have only the low resolution cores. I think now they have one version or one excuse me, one model that's 640 by 480 as well. I'll look at the Burs Steiner thermals a little bit more carefully as we go along. I talked about Veracity pH scopes during the Beretta Range Day overview. A front focal plane, kind of like I said, somewhat dumbed down version of the IFS. 3 magnifications, 2.5 to 12 by 42, 3 to 15 by 44, and 4 to 20 by 50. Map is from $1,100 to $1,300. These have the heads-up display inside the view, so you always know what you've dialed with the reticle. I think they're for now MOA only. I really like again the 2.5 to 12 by 42, good low light reticle, good illumination, and fairly smart. Excuse me. In the comment earlier, somebody asked me what does it mean when I say that it has a somewhat detuned. Drew Morgan, best guess, street price. Hard to say. Map prices are going to be pretty close to street prices. It's not MSRP, it's map. Map should be in the ballpark. So the way Steiner and Burs do on the MPVO. So MPVO, the map price is $1,900. So on the 2 to 12 by 42. So it's going to be in that general range, I assume. Where was I? The way Burs does electro-optical integration in the brains with Steiner scopes that have the IFS system of some sort, there's a ballistic calculator in the scope itself, right? So the scope does the calculation, all this sort of stuff. The way the Veracity pH scopes do, so they connect to your phone app. The phone app figures out the ballistics and all that, and sends the data to the scope essentially as a lookup table. So the whole curve is stored, and then depending on the conditions, distance, yada yada yada, depending on what you're doing, the scope itself will just pick a number from the stored data as is, and you can start in a couple of profiles. But it doesn't actually have a ballistic solver in the scope. It's just a lookup table. That gives you a little bit better battery life, but a little bit less adaptability, and you're dependent on the app and all that sort of stuff. Both approaches work just fine. Somewhere in there, I stopped by German Precision Optics. They have some new products. So Century scopes are specific to US market, and they are a little bit less expensive. They actually looked okay. No, nothing earth-shattering, but perfectly reasonable. They have a GPO had a new. Okay, that's already Schmidt. GPO had a new scope from their tactical line, the front focal plane 4-16. 42, I want to say, still a prototype. The reticle that was basically not usable. I pointed out to them. They had their oh shit moment, and the reticle is going to change, which is good for them. It's kind of a nice thing for them to figure it all out. Rick Ham, is it MIL or just more for the MPVO Steiner? The original versions that came out a year ago were MOA. The MIL with the tree reticle came out this time at SHOT Show. So they are both MIL and MOA options. As you can imagine, I prefer the MIL option. I am back. So that was GPO. Apparently had a scheduled meeting with SIG that I forgot to put in my calendar. So I stood them up, and then when I was there, the guy I needed to meet with ran off. I'm gonna try to talk to them again Friday morning. I went and looked at all the different scopes I like the 3-12 Classic and all that. And that was nice scopes. I don't think I had anything new this SHOT Show. They had introductions last year, so I think they're okay. I stopped by US Optics. No new changes with FDL scopes, but they have a new 3-18x50. That's the WAMP scope for the usual business. They'll do full QC in the US and all that. Actually, looked pretty nice. I mean, perfectly reasonable scope. They're kind of ironing out some reticle details and all that. We had a nice discussion about that. US Optics happen to be one of the companies I like. I want them to do well, but the product stands on its own merits, so we'll see. I should be ready about March, April. It's in the $500-600 price range. I'll take a look at it and see how it stacks up. And like the packaging, knurling, etc., is all done very nicely. Yeah, from what I could tell from indoors, optical and stuff that looked okay. Turrets were, locking turrets were fine. I don't know. Once they're ready, I'll need to take a look. Let's see if there are any comments. I went and briefly stopped by Stag. Stag announced a lever gun, which I'm pretty excited about. Beyond that, they have the Pursuit bolt action rifles, but I've already talked about them since I have one that I'm testing. I went and visited EOTech. The new stuff seems to be the Voodoo X scope, which is a 2-12x32 simple second focal planes hunting scope. I'm sure there's a market for it. Seems to be kind of an odd offering for EOTech, but if they're just rounding out their product line, it does make sense. It looked like an okay simple hunting scope. Not sure what else to make out of it. This is already from this morning. I did a couple of quick things, and then I went to visit Element. On the way to visit Element, and I don't see pictures. My brother was taking pictures, so they'll get them uploaded. I visited Field Optics Research. The guys do tripods and stuff like that. They have this very clever dome top tripod. I had one from last year I've been messing with, but that's kind of Gen 1. It had some rough edges. They got all of those figured out and fixed for this year. Dome top tripods kick ass in terms of usability, ease of use for shooting tripods. That's probably the best I've seen. I'll do a proper review. I'll tell you more about why I like it so much. It's just the way it's controlled is really cool. Then I went and spent some time with Element. So Element has a bunch of new stuff. I thought I had a picture of it. This new stuff is from FX. What you're looking at, if you look carefully, is a freaking air gun that sits in an MDT chassis. They did something honestly unimaginably clever. I looked at it for a minute. I couldn't quite figure out what gives. So what looks like a very heavy barrel, they have a gas and air tank that is a cylindrical air tank around the very thin barrel. So it's an air gun that you can use as a trainer for 22 competitions where you can use air guns, stuff like that. The usual effects things, triggers unbelievable. It's super accurate. For normal precision gun training, this thing is freaking remarkable. Just an unbelievable setup. This one is in an MDT chassis. That's going to be fairly expensive. They're going to have one in regular stock as well. At first, when I looked at it, I said that I want one. Then I looked at it again and said that I need one. I looked at it one more time and decided I'm getting one. Once they're available, yeah, man, effects with air guns just absolutely kicks ass. Just unbelievable. I did record a video with Matt Dubber. I don't know if interesting. I don't know if it's going to play a video or not. We can try. So Nexus Gen 2, I looked at it a little bit more carefully. Nice scope, really like it. They have the digital reticle scope called Hyper 7, so adding a Hyper 3 to it. Same basic thing, but 3 power magnification. There's a 5-30 that I designed. Now it's finally getting out there. I'm getting good feedback on the reticles, which I'm pretty happy about. I think one of you guys from UK has one. Element introduced 2 binoculars in the $400 range, 8x42, 10x42. I'm not big on 10x42 configuration, but it seemed like a nice binocular. I did like the 8 power a little bit more. And then Element introduced 3 different laser rangefinders. Excuse me, this little one here you see here, that's the one weapon-mounted one that designed to work with a Hyper 7, but will work with others. Ranges up to about 1,000 yards or so, depending on the target. Nice, simple and small. With a Hyper 7, talks to it wirelessly, seamless integration, talks to Element's ballistic app. I do have the app, works well. 2 handheld laser rangefinders. I see one here. I have some other pictures here and there. This is the this is the small handheld Helix 1500. There's also Titan 3000. Both of them have angle. They'll give you a linear distance and then horizontal equivalent and the angle, and they talk to the app. They'll give you a ballistic solution. The larger, the Titan, is held horizontally, also has a tripod mounting point, quarter 20 threaded spot. Excuse me. And ranges to past 3,000 meters. Depending if you put it in a tripod, quite impressive. The binoculars and the handheld LRFs come with some reasonably well-designed bags. I mean, they seem like nice laser rangefinders, but once again, there's not all that much I can tell from inside the show. My plan is to first get the small weapon-mounted one because I'm working the review for the Hyper 7, and then go from there. Rammers and okay, yeah, you have the 5-30. The 5-30 is just awesome. I'm glad you like it. The more I use it, the more I like the scope. It's just extremely pleasing to use. Very nice. like I said, immersive, for lack of a better word, field of view. Just a very pleasant scope to use. A very easy one. I have two of them, one on an AR-15 and another on my 1022. Just love it. Scope kicks ass. Okay. All right, let's see. Let's see what I have. Okay. Lakeshore again. Nexus to turret semi steers. Do you have a sense of optical quality yet? So the same design as Theos, but a little bit smaller. Theos is 12 milliradian per turn. Nexus 2 is 10 milliradian per turn. Similar feel, although it's slightly smaller turret, and then inside in terms of the design, and same as Theos, just slightly scaled down. So very nice turrets. Optical quality honestly looks very good. I've seen now several iterations of this basic Photo 25 design for map. Light optics works. There's some variants. This is probably one of the better ones. 30 millimeter tube, so it's not designed for a huge amount of adjustment, but it's enough for most things. Honestly, it's a really well-rounded general purpose tactical scope that can cross over into from tactical, precision hunting, a little bit of everything. There were no obvious weaknesses. Exposed elevation turret with zero stop, revolution counter, covered windage, push button elimination, and sight focus. You know, the guys at Element really like push button elimination. I'm a little bit more mixed on it, but it does stick out less than the rotary knob, so there is that. I don't know if I'm that happy about push button, but once again, people like it. I just don't happen to be one of them. Then again, like the way I use illumination would not slow me down in the slightest, because I just only use it when the light gets low, so it's easy enough for me to use. Let's see. What else? So there's a video recorded with Matt. I'm very curious if it's gonna play. If you don't mind, I'm gonna try and see if it's gonna play in the video and tell me if you can hear it. So this is unedited. We're just sitting down and just turn on the camera. Is it gonna work or not? I really wonder. No, I don't think it's gonna work. I think it takes a little bit too much data. It's gonna be slowing down too much. Yeah, let's not watch the video now. I will skip that, and I'll cut out a couple of pieces couple of spots when people were interrupting us, and we'll go from there. Okay. What was that? There was some fusion device from some. I actually don't remember who it was. There was some very expensive military style fusion device with thermal satellite CMOS handheld thing. Worked okay. I can't say I was super impressed. So then I walked around a little bit and went to visit Athlon. Lakeshore guy, worthy of a custom precision match rifle. I don't know. It depends on what you want to do with that rifle and all that. Look, if it's a proper long range precision rifle and you're not limited and not terribly limited in terms of size, weight, and all that, Element Theos is a better fit. A little more magnification, a little larger objective. If your primary purpose is precision, there isn't really a ton of downside to going to a larger design. If you are trying to do more of a crossover thing, then the Gen 2 Nexus is not a bad idea. If it's primarily just a precision scope, I would go with a larger Theos or something else along those lines. Right? So just depends on what you think. Link. So that's about Athlon. What do you think of the new Harris SFP scopes? They're not bad. I think Harris is a very high magnification one, right? There were a couple there that I saw. I thought they look very respectable for the money, but again, it's not the kind of scope I'm hugely interested. Like Sugar General Hunt is likely the fit. due to weight. Yeah, that's the next gen to my door, right? And an Earl Hunter. Those they're still lighter weight options, but they're not as well rounded as the Nexus. Yeah, that's reasonable. Link. They looked okay, best I can tell, inside shot. So I do not have any current plans to test it. There are a few things that F1T does that I do want to see. One of them is probably this binocular. It's a 12 by 50 binocular with a reticle in it, and it's going to sell for around $450. Outwardly looks surprisingly similar to the 12 by 50 from Apex. I haven't seen Apex yet. I'll see them tomorrow. But nice reticle and looked quite good. So you can buy a very respectable 12 to 50 binocular now with a reticle in one of the barrels, $1 to $500. That's a big deal. Athlon should be commended for bringing that to market. Another thing that was new is they have a Kronos G2 scope, 20 to 60 power eyepiece. They brought back this dual focuser. With the right, excuse me, with spotting scopes, people kind of go back and forth between the large focuser, like helical focuser, like what Swarovski uses, and this small external knob with the dual speed that can go either way. But with larger scopes, I kind of like this arrangement. With smaller scopes, I prefer one large adjustment ring around the scope body. It's called the helical adjustment ring. I had a buddy of mine look through this and tell me what he think it would be retailing for. He spent some time looking through it and said, it looks quite nice, which I agree with. It looks very nice. And he said, oh, you can do 18, 1900 as long as you stay under $2,000. You're in good shape. And this thing is going to sell for $999, basically $1,000. This amount of image quality, assuming they're all like this, for $1,000 is pretty freaking impressive. So, kudos to Athlon. This is going to be a nice product for them, I think. Okay. So, Athlon introduced the Kronos Tactical. This is a Gen 2 Kronos Tactical, 7 to 32 by 60 field scope. I still have one of the original prototypes. I helped them design the reticle for it several years ago. Always liked the scope. I think it did very well with it. They discontinued it, introduced a new one, so I went and looked at it. I think it's better. It's a step up from the original. The original had a little bit of an issue with flare control. This one, the flare control is much better. Another thing they did is they made this little simple custom arca plate. You see it has two screws. So the way it works with many of the spotting scopes like this is when you only use a single arca plate with a single screw, single quarter 20, it starts twisting, rotating, getting disconnected and all that. Rather than complicate things and try to machine the foot of the scope and all that, they just said screw it, put in two quarter 20 threaded holes in there, and made a plate with it's attached with two screws. Simple and very clever solution. So nothing's going to rotate. I like it. Once again, good for Athlon. So Kronos Tactical 742 by 56 with a reticle. I think it's $999, around $1,000. And I went to looking at this after having seen prior to that Night Force's 6 to 36 by 50 for $3,000 and Steiner's 7 to 40 by 60. It's almost the exact same configuration as this for somewhere in the general ballpark. And then this 7 to 42 by 60 for $1,000. I like the Steiner guys. I have a ton of respect for Night Force. I think they're off their rocker. I'd just get this. I'll be honest with you. Walked around a little bit. Visited this company, Carbon Research. They do these carbon fiber suppressors. They had a cutout how they do this. So the baffles are generally metal and they're held by carbon fiber. That's how, excuse me, they make them so light, impressively light suppressors. Kind of considering picking one up just to see. Roaming around the bottom floor of the show, there's 8 million Chinese companies all doing something. This one is actually somewhat clever. It's a LRF module that clips on an eyepiece. And the way it's set up, when it's almost like a heads-up display when you are behind the scope. Execution looked a little crude, but but it's a clever idea. I don't think it's a good idea, but it's kind of halfway there, so good for them. That was a company called LaserWorks. I'll need to look at their website, see what they're about. Went and visited. So I ran into Will over there, my PRS shooting buddy. Will's a good dude and a smart guy. So he wanted to go look at this annealing thing, and I went, and it's very impressive. This is the induction annealing, but $1,400 for this thing. If I start annealing, I'll use this. I much prefer this to all this stuff. With the flame, you can program the time, etc. Save a bunch of different profiles, up to 50 profiles for different brass. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but if you want the most accuracy, you need to anneal the necks, and this is pretty much it. I was very impressed. Went and visited AGM. They do primarily thermal night vision stuff. Looked around a little bit. I'm not a huge fan of AGM. They kind of meat packs, mostly somewhat unimpressive thermals. They have this fusion binocular where I thought the thermal was kind of soft, or the lens probably a little soft. Then I picked up this fusion monocular, which is basically just a little day camera fused with thermal. The day camera is crap, but this thermal with this lens was actually pretty sharp. So that was not bad. Okay, there is. So about $3,000, 640 by 512 thermal, 35mm lens. If it has a laser rangefinder and it has a day camera and it has a thermal. No, that's not a bad observation device. I don't know if I'd pay $3,000 for it, but if there's a sale or something, it might be worth it. Didn't see anything else there that I thought was particularly noteworthy. Excuse me. Rick, those were great. So which ones were great? Give me 1 second. Rick, I'm not entirely sure which ones you mean. There's a delay between. Oh, there you go. So what you're telling me is those were great annealer. Yeah, that's what I've been told, and this is kind of Gen 2 of their induction annealer. But again, $1,400. I'm not convinced how much I needed. I know I want one. I'm not convinced I need one. I want one because it's a very cool tool. I'm not sure if I really need it or not. I went and visited Gideon Optics. Gideon Optics is so Mike Branson is running the optics division there. It's part of a different company that does other gun parts. They started out with a bunch of red dot sights, and they're beginning to do a couple of PVOs. This is a second focal plane 1 to 10, kind of a nice simple reticle, just the donut with the chevron in the middle, couple of holdover marks. Looked all right. Excuse me. It's I think 1 to 10 by 28 second focal plane. They're working on they had I think FFP prototype there as well. They're kind of iterating their red dots. They're looking pretty nice, but they're kind of going to generational change with brighter illuminators, brighter emitters. I am sort of cautiously optimistic. Mike's a good dude. He's a smart guy. He understands the market, understands what to do. So I am cautiously optimistic about Gideon Optics. I plan to get an enclosed red dot sight from them and do a proper review. But I went and looked at whatever they had. There were quite a few things. This is the enclosed sight, I think, called it the Dominator or something like that. He always has very dramatic names, which I find amusing. Looks like it fits an acro pattern, not a bad thing. It's a reasonably well designed dovetail. So this is a red dot sight I want to look at more carefully. But they have several open ones. They also looked okay. With the red dot sights, I'm probably going to focus a little bit more on the enclosed ones during the coming few months. Then I went to Gunworks, and the Gen 2 Revic is finally out. Very similar. to the prototype I saw a year ago that they didn't want me to talk about, so I didn't. And this looks very good. Again, I didn't get a chance to exercise it. I will. They will probably have proper production models toward March, April, which works well. Like I said, right now I'm not taking on any new reviews. I need to finish what I have on my plate now. So by the time they have these in a little more quantities, I will be ready. It is MOA only for now. I will compromise on my principles and review it anyway, because the scope kicks ass, and the reticle they use, it's the same reticle that I have in their Acura scope, is arguably one of the finest hunting reticles on the market today. If you want to know why, stay tuned for a proper review of the Acura scope and for this Revic Gen 2 smart scope. Optically, it's based on the same 4 to 25 by 50, although they call it a 5 to 25 by 50 design that underpins scopes like the Nexus Gen 2 and all that. But it has lots of electronics in there. So on top of the eyepiece, there's a little joystick and a couple of buttons that runs the menu and the heads-up display. Again, the big strength of all of these designs is that as you start adjusting the turret, how much you've adjusted and everything is all visible through the scope. This particular scope, I don't remember the exact weight, but it's definitely lighter than the Gen 1 Revic was. The weight is fairly reasonable. It's not a cheap scope, given all the brains and development money and all that, but it works. The Revic Gen 2, I think, is 3900, and the version of the scope from Revic that's not a smart scope, Revic Acura, I think, is about 2100. So it's not bad, it works, and I do have a really exceptionally nice hunting reticle. When I get home, if you guys remind me, I'll take some through the scope pictures and I'll work it out. I hope that Gideon enclosed RDS isn't a swamp fox. Kind of looks like one. No, it's not a swamp fox made in a different place by different people. That I know for a fact. Okay. Let's see, what else do I have? Then I was around. I stopped by Seekins Precision. And because it's late and I'm tired, I don't remember the name of this rifle. It's a new stock that they introduced for the lightweight rifle. They do the whole stock inside. It's called the Custom Series, I think. And Jesus, what was it called? Give me one sec. It's a Havoc action, the same action that they used in the previous ones before. It's not a Havoc hit. It's a version of the Element with a different stock. Okay, it'll come back to me eventually. So this one that you are looking at. So the stock folds. It's fairly stiff, but it's very lightweight. The cheek piece is somewhat adjustable. Nice recoil pad. Fluted, non-carbon fiber barrel. I think this is a 22-inch barrel in 6.5 PRC or 300 Win Mag. I think I was looking at 6.5 PRC. The rifle without the scope and stuff is 5.4 pounds. Yeah, this is a lightweight mountain rifle. I probably would not recommend it in the 300 mag. Even in 6.5 PRC, it's probably going to be pretty peppy. But this is one hell of a cheap rifle. So if the rifle itself with the stock and all that is 5.4 pounds, the scope on it is a Vortex Razor's DLHT, which is 22 ounces, 2 Seekins rings, maybe the force wood about 26, 27 ounces, and the rail. So generously, I'll give it 2 pounds, although it's probably a little bit less. So the rifle configuration, as you see it, is less than 7.5 pounds with a nice optic. That is quite impressive, and all the variants of Seekins Havoc rifles shot well. But at 7.5 pounds, it's Slam rifle, thank you. At 7.5 pounds, it was pretty freaking impressive. I like lightweight guns. Not sure when I shell out the money for this one. It's like $4,700, something like that. But I don't know. I'm gonna apply for a bunch of. If I get a sheep tag somewhere in New Mexico where I have to go to some serious altitude looking for the freaking sheep, maybe I'll pick one up. But I don't know. I'd still just take the fix. Impressive gun, impressive weight, nicely packaged, everything. Steve, I really liked what I saw. So yeah. All right, I think that is what I have in the pictures. Let me take a quick look at various accumulated brochures I have. My brother, while I was, looking at things, kind of went and looked around and looked at some other stuff. This show is enormous. There's no way to cover everything. He pointed out a couple of things that are interesting that I am going to maybe go visit tomorrow. There's a million different optics companies. Hard to figure out who's who. Country Value CV Life since 2005. No idea who the hell this is. They have a nice catalog, but all the products look like very basic Chinesium with a name. There is stuff like Texas Precision Optic. Everybody in YouTube is Chinese with very limited English. So a lot of these seem to be different attempts by various Chinese companies to sell scopes. Now, I don't begrudge them that. Don't misunderstand me. Everyone needs to make money. And oftentimes they do make some pretty nice stuff. But there's also a lot of things that, Chinese OEMs build these products for their customers and then they go to SHOT Show and try to sell the same products themselves. And I am kind of making an argument that it may not be the best way to do business, but you know what, more power to them. Like this, beautiful Conotag, beautiful brochure, stuff like that. Looks wonderful. Look carefully. This is Wuhan Kono Technology Company. So another Chinese OEM that's here just selling their stuff. Thermal things are everywhere in ever increasing numbers and decreasing prices. But figuring out what works well, what doesn't is tough. Lots of them have lenses that to me just look soft. So without a proper test, my basic recommendation on thermals is to stick with the known quantities, right? So it's one of the reasons I'm so happy with the fact that Steiner C35 Clipon is at 3K. It's a good deal for this level of performance. The image looked quite sharp in the way Steiner does image processing is, just very commendable. What is the Space Cat? Everybody has now a rangefinder of some sort of difference. Oh, speaking of rangefinders, one of the things I think I forgot to say. So with Element rangefinders, I have that little Helix rangefinder they handheld. That's optically, it's a 6x22 monocular. With the larger horizontal one, larger lens, it's 7x26, which does make some difference. Mr. Alexei Milabra, any big developments on crystal clear red dot under an NVD? I think you need to clarify that. I didn't look at a lot of red dots with night vision devices. The SHOT Show, given how bright it is over there, it's not particularly good environment for it. I'll look at some more tomorrow, but I'm not entirely sure what you're addressing here, so it's hard for me to say. Okay. Let's see what else do I have. There's a bunch of papers here. That's not it. It's not it. This is the non-optical stuff mostly. Lots of interesting tripods. Interesting guns. What is this? Yeah, okay. I think That's the bulk of it. I have this nagging feeling that I talked to somebody else, and I can't quite remember who it was. I think I've pretty much ran out of steam at this point. Right, Alex, please clarify what you mean. I'll stick around for another moment. Oh, Holosun. Yeah, I looked at the Holosun DRS. Yeah, it's a steaming pile of manure. It's not quite true. It's a little bit unfair. It's better than last year, but it's still not good. The fusion is not done well. The alignment is not well. The thermal image is laggy. It's a toy. It's not a serious product. So it's not there yet. Okay. The Holosun is kind of interesting, right? So the red dot sites are looking pretty good. I mean, then I have nice red dot sites. Know how to do that. I'm looking at the efforts on all this thermal fusion and things like that. And like all the people in the booth don't know what's happening with any of that. There are no engineers there that I saw, but these are the kind of things I work with for my day job. And everything I've seen so far from Holosun on it has been half baked to be charitable. So that's just that. Mr. Remmers and Twangers, there's a big hype in the UK regarding day-night digital scopes. I mean, Arkin Zulu, Hick Micro, etc. I haven't seen Arkin yet. Hick Micro I don't like. For the more conventional, so most of them use somewhat more conventional image sensors from like security cameras and all that. And they basically know to work well. When it's truly dark, they will still need an illuminator. Everything that I've seen up to date in terms of proper digital rifle scopes has been decidedly on the border between underwhelming and completely useless. I have not seen Arkin Zulu. Tomorrow I'm going to the Caesars Forum part of this, and I think Arkin is there. I'll stop by and take a look. I don't think they like me very much. Don't particularly care. I have this love-hate relationship with Arkin. I think I want them to succeed. I want them to do well, but the QC right now is not at the point where I can do anything with their products. So there's that. All right, guys, unless you got something else, I'm going to turn in and I need to get some sleep. My voice is about to make a disappearing act, and I still have 2 days of talking ahead of me. Anything else you got that you want me to address, or you think we're good for tonight? I think I need another cough drop. Going once. Going twice. All right. Looks like we are done for tonight. All right. Mr. Ramazan, thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you guys for sticking with me. Is there anything I missed? Anything else you want to mention? Put it in the comments and I'll look at it. The way my evening tomorrow works, it's not clear whether I'll be able to do the live stream or not. I'll do my best. May not work. We'll see. I might do something a little bit different. I don't know if the internet connection at the Venetian is fast enough. I have a few friends I'm planning to have dinner with a little bit later in the evening. Normally I try to have an early dinner and come back here and do this. So I need to see what time the media room closes, but maybe I have my noise canceling like a Bluetooth headset that works with my computer. Maybe what I'll do, if the connection is good enough, maybe I'll try to go to the media room, to the press room, and talk into the camera a little bit before I go to dinner. So if the connection is fast enough, I'll try that. Otherwise, later tomorrow, I don't think I'll be able to do it. If not, I'll see what I can pull off on Friday. Anyhow, thank you all and good night. If there's anything I missed, you know where to find me.